What is up? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Wednesday, and it's Wednesday night, August 23rd, and this is Bliggers Off. What's up, man?
What's up, everybody? Yeah, my favorite weekend of the year.
It's Travers week.
I know. I'm so excited. Favorite weekend of the year. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a really good card. The odds just came out, morning line odds, so it's going to be good, man. I'm really pumped for it. It's definitely a card that's got a few odd races mixed in with these stakes races, so it's going to be fun to try to work these out.
Yeah, obviously the Travers itself is the main event, and it's I think we talked a little bit about it last week, and then I kind of tweeted it out. Obviously 2017 was the last year, and of course 2015 we had it because you had Pharaoh that won all three legs of the Triple Crown. But the last time, 2017, we had three different horses that had won each of the legs, running the Travers. But it hasn't happened very often, and so it is very cool to have the three classic. It's such an interesting year where you have the three classic winners, or the 3-year-old races, and then you have Forte, who going into those races was the number one horse, but he only got to run in one of them, and it was off a long layoff. And so kind of feels like it's like, okay, the U3 won, and now we're going to find out what the big dog wants to do with U3. So it's going to be interesting to see how those all those line up.
Oh yeah, it's going to be really weird to see those three, and then a strong favorite that'll be much lower priced than any of those three. So that's definitely not something really wasn't that long ago before since those Triple Crown races to kind of see that. But deserving favorite for sure, absolutely, no doubt. Forte, he didn't get a real fair shake, I would say, in the Triple Crown series. Ran in the Belmont off of what was not ideal. I don't really think his trainer wanted to run him there, to be quite honest. How do I say that? Well, he said, I don't want to run him here, and they did anyway. So now he's in a lot better shape to run in this race, the Travers here, and he's going to get a big shot at this big grade one. And it's a short field. I was telling my dad, it's like, yeah, you look at it, it's like, yeah, I can't believe we only have 7 for the Travers. That's kind of sucks. But then you look at the field, and it's like, well, they're all here. All the horses that you get excited about minus Go Rocket Rider here.
Right. I mean, that's really the only one. And
yeah.
That you would, as far as, it is interesting too that and we can get into all of it in a little bit, but with Arabian Lion, let's say a horse that has been kind of teetering on, is he a classic horse? What's he going to do with him? And Arabian Knight's his distance horse, and that's, and now it's like, well, you had another opportunity to run him in a big race. And here yet again, another time where he's on the undercard of that race versus the main race. And so it kind of, maybe we're starting to find out that he wants to run him. It's weird, right? Because when he won that race prior to the Belmont, that day, it was like, he's kind of like, well, I probably should have ran him in the Belmont. You kind of had the idea of thinking, well, he's surely going to stretch him out longer. And yet we continue to run him at one-turn races. So, I don't know if that means anything for National Treasure, that he's the one that's in the race, or if it means less about that or not. But I thought that was interesting that Arabian Lion yet again on the undercard of a big race.
I think it means that Bob Baffert's best horses this year were one-turn horses more than anything else. I don't think it means National Treasure is better than horse A or B. I just think I think Arabian Lion, you watch the Woody Steven, it's like, yeah, he's probably just a one-turn type. And you look at Fort Bragg, and he's kind of proven that. So I think that's what it means. I don't know. We'll get into National Treasure. I don't know what to do with him.
Okay. By the way, Dennis, we will be there tomorrow. We fly out tomorrow, which is part of the reason why we're doing the pod early. Obviously, we're excited. So if we, the card's been out, so we're going to do it. But our travel is it'd be a late night. Let's put it that way in Saratoga. So we're going to go ahead and get it done, do the pod tonight. And then we travel day tomorrow, be there in the evening tomorrow night. And then we'll be at the track Friday and Saturday. By the way, the personal Ensign is that's a good segue, which is weird. Like, I don't know how you. Okay, I can tell, but how do you feel about it being on Friday?
I don't know.
How do you ruin a Travers card? You put the personal Ensign on Friday instead of Saturday.
I just don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, we've taken stakes away from a big card when every other racetrack is like trying to add stakes to their big card. I don't understand it at all. I thought that was so odd. Used to what they did, they would have all the New York bred races, the big stakes racing action on the Friday before the Travers, which I thought was a really good idea because you get a big crowd and you get to showcase these New York breds, and it was cool. While New York bred racing, it isn't the greatest. It's still, there's good horses, and it was a really good showcase for them. And there usually were deep competitive fields on that Friday. Now we've taken that day and moved it to Sunday, which there's not going to be anybody there. I mean, there will be people there, but it's like that's kind of going to be the forgotten thing. And then we've kind of spread out the Boston Spa and the personal Ensign, and it's just like, why did you do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. You would think that Ness versus Clairiere and versus maybe another horse that we'll talk about later would be Travers worthy, but I guess not, Jared.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like my thing is like most people are gonna be there Friday anyways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not like, oh, we need to draw people in Friday to make sure they can come to the track, and then we have them ready for Saturday for the Travers. Like,
No.
they're gonna be there anyways. Whether it's just like, why not? Yeah, I don't get it. I did like 3 takes. I was like, what? That's on Friday? I just couldn't understand it. So,
Who could?
well, welcome to Naira and welcome to 2023 horse racing. On top of that,
Yeah.
no, go ahead because we're just going to talk about the 3 Breeders' Cup races on rapid fire. So let's talk a little bit about the Pursley. You know what? This is a hell of a race. We've never really done this on the intro, but we'll talk about this race because you do have it. And by the way, this weekend feels a lot like minus the Travers, I guess. I mean, I guess if you want to say Forte versus, the field, or Forte versus the 3, winners. But you have a lot of those kind of matchups in a lot of these races. It feels like Clairiere versus Nest, elite power versus Goodnight, or Goodnight Olive versus Echo Zulu. You have a lot of those. So even the short fields doesn't worry me. It's like, I mean, I'm here for the matchups. So do you think this one, to me, the way I looked at it when I handicapped it, it feels like Clairiere didn't have much of a chance last time because of the pace setup, because of I think she's going to have a better chance this time. I think Nest might be put into a little bit of an issue. What do you do? How soon do you go with this horse out in front? You know what I mean? Because if you go too quick, it sets it up too much for Clairiere. If you don't, you might give the race away a little bit to the one, Idiomatic, who might be out there in front.
Yeah, I don't really think Clairiere's in any better position. I don't think Nest. I don't think they'll try to push Idiomatic with Nest. I really don't. I mean, you look how they kind of rode her last time. They kind of just kept her off of it. I think that's what they'll do this time. I think they'll let the Cox horse go out a couple of links, and they'll sit second or third, and then try to, get the jump on Clairiere again, and then just hope that Nest is just better than the horse out in front and can go get her. I think that's the strategy. I don't think they're going to go out and bang heads early.
I mean, it feels. I think personally that she's in a bet. Clairiere has a better chance this time than last time, but I still don't know if it's going to be good enough. Nest is awesome. I mean, Nest is just she's that she's her, as they say. She's a beast. And so, who are you? You mentioned another one that you might be interested in. Who are you kind of thinking about?
Well, the Cox horse, I think Idiomatic is the one.
Steal it on the front end, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Clairiere is in any better position than last time to beat Nest. I don't see that, but I do see, hey, there's a horse out in front, and I mean, again, I just don't think Nest is going to go chasing. I think they'll just play it off as well. We'll catch her if we're good enough, and so I do think when you get a Cox horse that's loose on the lead, they're kind of hard to run down, and I think we've seen that over and over, even in situations where it's like Forte versus Saudi Crown, where you think Forte's got him, he's turns for home within range, and they don't stop really. So
yeah,
I mean, I just don't look, if Nest does go with her, then yeah, Clairiere's got a much better shot. I just don't see that's going to happen.
Well, I'll make my case, and I'm not so like I'm right now. I'm still picking Nest, and again, I think that's a good disclaimer. It's Wednesday. Obviously, lots of weather that could or could not happen. We know what it was like last time. Chances of rain still, we're still, betting Bible, by the way, available now, but we're still working on that. Lots of changes that could be happening. So, point of that is lots of our opinions here, obviously, are our takes right now. But make sure you continue to, follow the site, download the betting Bible, stay tuned to what's going on. Just don't go, blindly write down what we're talking about tonight and then don't listen to another thing from us for the rest of the week. But my thoughts, and you can tell me I'm wrong, but with last time I felt like it was a little kind of like in Nest's ballpark, and this time it kind of feels like if you're IRAD, when you have that legit loose on the lead type horse, and you're not, I don't disagree with you. I don't believe that they're gonna like challenge her early or anything, but how long do you wait to go get her? Because if you go too soon, then you might hurt your chance. Maybe it sets it up a little bit more for Clairiere. If you go too late, maybe Idiomatic could steal it. And that's why I just think it creates a little bit more of a urgency from IRAD to be like, you got to get this timing right on this ride, because if you don't, you're gonna fuck it up.
Yeah, I guess that's probably true. It's going to depend on like where does Nest sit early, because I've seen her sit closer to the lead than what she sat in that last race,
Yeah.
right? So if she can naturally just get out of the gate and naturally sit a little closer, I think she can be pretty patient. If she's 4 or 5 behind, yeah, I mean she's going to have to make the move, and that could become a problematic thing. But I think the key to the race be where she sits early. I think she's going to sit a little closer maybe than what you're thinking, and that could be the difference there. But yeah, again, I look at Clairiere and every time it's like, yeah, we're pace compromised. And yeah, we got a trainer in Steve Asmussen that trains this horse that trains like 1,000 horses. And it's just like, why don't you put a rabbit in one of these races for her? I just don't get it. Like, every time it's going to be like a 5-horse field. That's what this is right now. What do you do? Like, and then we'll go after the race and go, well, she didn't have any pace. And it's like, well, you could do something about it. I don't know.
Well, it's a hell of a Friday race. So
Yeah.
At least we got that to look forward to, right?
Yeah.
But no, and then the ball's on spot too. Took that away on Friday or on Saturday. So hey, you know what though? It's got 2 days of action that we can. I don't know. I mean, now we weren't gonna go. We were actually gonna go shopping on Friday, but now we will. Now that
Right. Yeah.
now the Purslins and what is society doing Friday is what Christopher wants to know.
Well, I mean that's it's not that it's a pretty good take, right? Yeah. Like she's not. I mean, why not just throw her in the race? I mean, Clairiere is easily your best older. I mean, maybe you don't waste like Society, but even though she's not that great, but you got to have somebody that you could put in. I mean, and there's no rule against it. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't know. But again, like after every race, he goes, "Yeah, I just pace compromise," and it's like, what? Who could do something about that? Who's better equipped to do something about that?
No, it's like every time it's like, well, the pay, and it happens. Like you say, you're not wrong. Like it happens a lot,
all the time. Every race she enters.
It's like, oh well, like the pace was really up against. It's like, well, when you have a horse that doesn't run until the top of the quarter pole, basically,
yeah,
then make sure you get a pace set up in every race. Anyway, I mean, it's not like Asmussen has a shortage of horses he can run in any of these races. I've seen a couple comments. I'll try to find one as I mentioned it. But yeah, like Charles wants to know. Another side note, who gets the mount on Mage? Luis Saez, which was a rolling jockey. He was kind of on the fence of where he was going to go. Was it going to be or no? I'm sorry, it was Javier who was on the fence about between going with Mage and Arcangelo. He chose Arcangelo, or at least it kind of had happened for him. And anyways, Luis Saez bails off Tapit Trice, ends up on Mage. Now he gets hurt today, going to fall. Fortunately, a horse went down at Saratoga today, and he was hurt, and it sounds like he's hurt. I mean, he broke his collarbone. He's out for indefinitely, so he's not going to be riding Mage. We haven't heard. At least I haven't seen. You got to think Pratt is going to be top choice there. I don't know.
Well, they've got the pick of the litter, right? There's 6 jockeys taken. And okay, so now Saez, I guess, is 7. Well, go into that room and just go grab the one he thinks best. I mean, it's not like it's a 12 horse field and we got to go to Finger Lakes to get a jockey. There's guys in there. So, I mean, maybe I would think Pratt, it could be Gaffleone, go on down the list, right?
Irad, Castellano, or the other Ortiz, Johnny V, Rosario, and Alvarado are all off the board. So they're all off the board. You've got the 7th draft pick here. Who are you going with? Is it Pratt,
I would go,
or is it Dylan Davis? I mean, really, it's Pratt. I don't know how he's not going to get them out.
It makes total sense that it would be Pratt. Yeah, people are saying Tyler G's got a Florida connection. I mean, it could be him as well. But I mean, I don't think it matters. I don't. I mean, and that's not a disrespect to Luis Saez. I love him, but like I said, it's not like there's 14 horses in this race and you got to go get Katie Davis or somebody like you don't. You can go get whoever you want. Like it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, the difference of Saez and Pratt or whatever is not going to make the difference of a horse winning or losing. So
it's not. People might say it did or didn't, but it's not. It's just that simple. It's not.
You could guarantee that's going to happen,
right?
When he loses, it'll be like, well, that's not his. Pratt's not that kind of jockey that Saez is,
right?
He would have got the job done. But it is funny how there was all this talk about, oh well, it's about time he left Tapit Trice. It's like everyone loved him on Tapit Trice when he was running well. But it's just it's not funny. I guess I shouldn't have said funny, but it's just it sucks that like after all the movement of kind of he landed on the horse, he landed on the Derby winner, and now he's out. So and that's not going to just affect that race. Obviously, I mean Saez he rides in every every race and every stakes race. Certainly, let me look at this. I hadn't even thought about that. Pipeline and the Forgo. There's some of the other ones. The Jerkins, he was on One in Vermilion. Ballerina, he was on Dr. B. He wasn't on anything in the Sword Dancer. So, I mean, nothing major, thankfully, on those undercard races. So
I gotta think this comment's pretty funny. If you really think that anybody's gonna tell Tapit Trice what to do, you're out of your mind. So there's that your theory's done. Like, listen, Forte, he always causes trouble, so he doesn't need Tapit Trice to help him.
Yeah, Jose probably got the mount like, oh shit. I was like, you better save some gas the whole day because he's gonna need it in that last race. Well, I guess not the last race, but second to last race. Because that was a horse that he drew the short straw. With that one.
You got to ride him the whole way around there. So we'll see if he can.
It's so funny. Don't you remember whenever Saez got it and everyone's like, oh, it's a perfect jockey for him. The way he rides and he pumps on him. It's like now, it was about time he got off.
It was a perfect jockey for him. I mean,
it seemed like it. I don't know.
It was. It's just the jockey can't pick them up on their shoulders. And I mean, they're not driving a race car. This horse is just. They can't get him to do it. I mean, we'll get into it.
Let's not wait because there's a lot of takes to be had here in this Travers, and we've got plenty of time. And it's late. It's 9:30 here Central. And if you're already out there in Saratoga area, it's late, you guys. So let's sit back and let's have some fun. And all hot takes are available for this Travers show. We're going to preview and get picks for Saturday's $1.25 million Travers Stakes at Saratoga. They're going to give some rapid fire selections for the 2023 Breeders' Cup Challenge Series races at Saratoga. You got the Ballerina, the Sword Dancer, and the Pat O'Brien out at Del Mar. Let's go. Alrighty. Yeah, man, it feels... you said it. It's like... there is no filler. I mean... Maybe there is filler, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like every horse in this race is like, okay, yeah, I mean, probably should be in the race, right?
Well, you could make a case for all of them for sure. A solid case for all of them. We did a show, or my dad and I did a show this afternoon, and there was people saying they were going to bet all 7 of them at one point. Different people, so they brought up all 7. So, I mean. There's a few that I don't like, but that doesn't mean they can't win or it's impossible.
It's okay, Curtis. We're good. I'm not on that train anymore, so you can talk Although, well, I'll get into it. I got a lot of Tapit Trice talk to talk about here.
Yeah.
I've been saving it all week, so because I know anytime I text Halterman about it, he just laughs because he's like, I don't want to hear about that shit. I hate that horse, and so I'm like, I'm saving it all. Saturday at Saratoga, race 12, the main event, really the main event of the year. Every year we look forward to this race, the Grade 1 Travers Stakes, $1.25 million race for 3-year-olds. Going a mile and a quarter, field of 7. And listen, the Derby obviously is the Kentucky Derby. Can't take that away. But if there's another race, these 3-year-olds, these jockeys, these trainers, the owners that they want to win, it's the Travers year in and year out. And obviously, we you don't need to tell any stories about what this race is. We all know the history. We know how important this race is, not just for stallions, but what it means for the overall 3-year-old champion. And really, this thing is wide open. In that case, you've got all 3 horses that won each leg of the Triple Crown this year. Mage in the Kentucky Derby, National Treasure in the Preakness, and Arcangelo in the Belmont, all in the race, up against Forte, up against Tapit Trice, Disarm, Scotland. Field of 7, Halterman, but man, it's a solid 7. And other, like we talked about in the opening, other than Go Rocket Ride, I mean, you're really not missing anybody.
No, I mean, you got the horses, you got the 3 Triple Crown winners, and you got Forte in there. And I think that's, if you would have said, hey, somehow if you would have told us in March, Forte's not winning a Triple Crown race, but he'll still be the favorite in the Travers, even though he's facing 3 Triple Crown race winners, you'd be pretty surprised, but you'd also say, I'll take it, because that means Forte's been great and we got the 3 Triple Crown winners. So, and you'd take it and you wouldn't really care who else is in it. So that's what we've got. And, I think it's going to be a very intriguing race. I think Forte 100% deserves to be a short price in here. I don't think it's as easy as, hey, like we had with Epicenter or Essential Quality. I don't look at Forte the same way that I looked at those 2 horses the last 2 years and thought, you know what, they're not losing. But at the same time, he's the one to beat. I'm sorry. I just think he is the one to beat coming in this race.
Yeah, I mean, okay, listen. So we have 7, and really all 7, like you said, you kind of make a case for. So let's just run through them. Everyone's here, like you said. Everyone's kind of. It feels like you could talk. I've talked to somebody that has liked a different horse as well. And so it's like, hey, I mean, everyone. Let's kind of give everybody a thought process for every horse here. Number 1, Forte, 7-5 morning line favorite. Charles Durrell, a horse that, unfortunately had a scratch out of the Kentucky Derby as the favorite. Came back off that long layoff. Remember, he hadn't ran since April 1st, came back and ran in the Belmont June 10th. You kind of alluded to it. We kind of don't need to allude to it. They didn't really want to run him in the race, but, owners did. Came flying late. Damn, really ran a nice race considering the layoff. Came back in the gym, Danny. They did everything they could do to keep him from winning, and he still found a way. In the mud, in the slop, nasty race, and he got the job done. You were there. You saw Forte get it done. So you kind of mentioned and talked a little bit about him. This is a horse that's done very little wrong in his career. 7 wins and 9 starts. Really, the only non-effort was in the Sanford where you just didn't have it. But since then, he's showed up every single race, and like you said, is a deserving favorite. But my thing with him, and it's like, I don't think he's you said it a little bit, but he's not a world beater. Like, I think he's the best of this 3-year-old crop, but I don't look at him in the same light, like you said, as Epicenter. And like, I think these 3-year-olds are very, very evenly matched a little bit. I think we've seen a lot of that too, but he's been the most consistent one. But we've seen a lot of, like, a horse will run really well and then they don't run well, and then this horse has shown signs and then doesn't show. Like, he brings it every time, and so to me, that's why he's going to be hard to beat. But I do think he is beatable.
I think you think that because he kind of he's left, I should say, question mark at all 4 of his starts as a 3-year-old. His 2-year-old starts were pretty darn good. Like I said, forget about the Sanford. I don't care about the Sanford, but the other one's really, really good. He comes to the this year, just kind of a workmanlike fountain of youth. It was a race where definitely you're like, well, that's just a starting off point. He'll get better. And his Florida Derby was like, the time wasn't very good. The number wasn't very good. He showed a lot of guts, but it was skeptical. Belmont, he wasn't cool. I mean, it just didn't work out. I mean, he just wasn't ready to go that day. And then he comes to the Jim Dandy and he ran excellent, but he maybe should have been taken down. He only won by a nose. It was kind of a blanket finish. And so he's not going to give you what Epicenter gave you in the Jim Dandy last year, where he turned the corner. He absolutely dominated the field, and you went to the Travers going, well, Epicenter is going to dominate again. Forte hasn't given you that. But at the same time, point to a race where he hasn't given you his absolute best effort. That you just can't, other than, like you said, that's Sanford. So he's just very, very consistent. And he's proven time and time again, if there's a horse in front of him, he will go get them. And the only time he didn't was the Belmont. And if you go rewatch the Belmont Stakes, I don't think he had any idea Arcangelo was ahead of him until the very end, because he still kept coming and kept coming. To me, he's the one they're going to have to beat, and you're going to have to be a really good horse to beat him.
Well, the problem with I'm having is, if you do want to try to beat him, you well, maybe not 6 other ones, but at least 5, I think, that you can. It's how do you land on one? It's really tough to get there. And it's such a good quality in a horse when a horse not only knows where the wire is, but goes after horses. Doesn't quit. You look at the Florida Derby, you could watch that race a million times. It's like, I don't know how he ever won that race. It just seemed like he was beat, and he just gets the job done. And so it's like you bet him, he's going to show up for you. Someone's going to have to run a huge race to beat him. It's just like, that's kind of the idea behind Forte, I think. But I don't know that it's impossible that one of those horses could, but it's hard to make a case for one of them, if not all of them. You got to make if you like Arcangelo, well, then you kind of got to think Mage can get it done. If you like Mage, well, maybe Baffert can do it with National Treasure, and maybe Scotland can do it on the front. It's like, if you kind of go down that hole, or you say, I mean, Forte was all along been the number 1 3-year-old, and he dominated in the Jim Dandy, even though he didn't really dominate, but he ran a huge race, all things considered. I just think Pletcher's finally got him back a little bit after, really since the first, Fountain of Youth and Florida Derby. He hasn't really gotten, because you think about it, like, that third race is where he wanted to pop him, which was the Derby, and he didn't get it. And then he kind of had to reset. The Belmont was sort of the reset, and then the Jim Dandy, and then boom, here you go. He's kind of got him, and he kind of alluded to that as well. It's like he's kind of got him where he wants him now. So I think we'll see a nice race. He's a versatile horse. All right, next horse. Arcangelo. This is probably the most interesting horse of the race as far as, like, what is he? Because obviously he did win the Peter Pan, but he beat Bishop's Bay, and it's like, Bishop's Bay is like, whatever. Kind of not as good as we kind of thought he was maybe going into it, but then came out and ran a huge race in the Belmont, won the race, kind of, like you said, kind of snuck up the rail, got the dream trip, the dream setup. It all worked out very well for him, but he did run a good race, and he won. So I kind of feel like he's going to prove it. He's going to prove it race for me. I'm going to let him beat me, because I don't necessarily trust what that race was from him. But he definitely could. I mean, that was a nice race. And if he does that again, he'll be tough to beat too.
He's the toughest one to figure, because it's really hard to understand exactly what he is. He breaks the maiden at Gulfstream going a mile. He won the Peter Pan in a very impressive race. Him and Bishop Bay just kind of galloped away from there. He won by a head, but we've seen it, man. Like, Bishop's Bay just he just doesn't really like to win, or he likes to win by a nose. He likes to hang with other horses. So the Belmont everything went really, really well for him. He got a nice setup. He got an absolute dream trip and a great ride by Castellano. But still, you can get all those things, but you still got to go take advantage of it. And the horse was able to do it. So
yeah,
I don't know what he is. I am very concerned with the layoff from the Belmont to the Travers. I think that's really, really tough to do. And if he does it, I tip the cap to him because I just don't think that's easy to do. I don't care what the trainer says or what anybody says. That's really tough to go Belmont. No races between Travers. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he wins. I couldn't put him on top. I just think there's too many question marks on this horse still out there, and I do think he has the potential to keep getting better. I just don't know if this is the race where he like just totally blossoms or not. I would have just loved to seen him in a race like the Jim Dandy. That would have been great and would have helped a lot.
Well, this is a big prove it race for him. He needs to come out and show something to see if that was a legit race or not. And I think as we go through the rest of these, I think Christopher has a good point. It's like agree that Forte probably is the best, and but it's kind of but when you add everyone else like the Arcangelo or Mage or National Treasure or whoever it is you like, it's tough to eat even money on him, and that's probably what you're going to get. And to that point, it's like, yeah, he might be the best horse, but do I really want to play him at even money when I have all three legs of the Triple Crown winners in the race? It makes it tricky, which does obviously open up the opportunity to get him beat with the other horse, because you do have options. The next horse, number 3, Tapit Trice, not my boy anymore, my formerly boy. This is a horse that needs no introduction, gets the blinkers on, which has just been all the talk from the barn. But the horse won Tampa Bay Derby, won the Bluegrass, went off almost favorite of the Kentucky Derby after the scratch of Forte. Didn't we're not going to go over the Derby again, but it was not good. And then the Belmont, I thought ran, and numbers wise, he ran the best race of his career, and he just couldn't get it done. And in fact, Forte passed him late. And then the Haskell was like, did he even run in the Haskell? Like, was he even in the race? Like, never even got a call, really. So the word is that the blinkers have made all the difference. I mean, that's legit what the barn is saying. Now I'm just reporting it, but that different horse, completely different horse. This is going to be a changed horse in the afternoon with the addition of blinkers. That's what I've been told. I'm like, okay, but he's not for me still. Now, I will say this though. I will say this before I'll give it to you. I'm off the train. Okay, I left it after the Belmont. I was done. I went all in on the Belmont. I said this is the race for him. I've been saying all year this is the race for him. He still couldn't get the job done. Thought it was a great trip. Then the Haskell was like, forget it. Certainly not here for me, the Travers. But if you have not jumped ship yet, this is the time. This is the time to bet him because he's 12-1, and I mean maybe he floats down a little bit from there or whatever. But you have enough, for me, in my opinion, you have enough changes with him, whether it be that addition of blinkers, a new jockey, that you can justify playing him at 10-1, in my opinion.
Well, let me back up because you've said a lot.
I love this horse. I just want to talk about this horse.
Well, no, but like you went all saying just like, if Forte and these other ones are pretty darn close, and that's an assumption that I don't think that. I think he's way better. So if you think he's way better, then you certainly can back him at a shorter price. I don't necessarily agree that it's darn close. But anyway, let's talk about Tapit Trice. First of all, I'm not sure the horse is going to go off at 12-1. There are so many people talking this horse up. It's crazy. Now, maybe these people aren't going to bet, or maybe it's just a select few people that we know that are talking the horse up. But I've heard from 6 or 7 people outside of what you've told me. We don't think he's losing this race, And I guess the problem is it's gotta fall on deaf ears to me, because the bottom line is, leading up to the Derby, everybody said, oh, he is training so much better than everybody else. Okay. And he ran 7th. Leading up to the Belmont, everybody said he is training so much better than anybody else I've watched.
I know, right?
He got 3rd. Leading up to the Haskell, he has bounced out of this Belmont unbelievably. It woke him up. He is training lights out for this Haskell. 5th, beating 8 3/4. Now he's got blinkers and he's training fantastic. I mean, enough is enough. I mean, look, I will admit I haven't looked at the pick 5 sequence as far as trying to structure a ticket. I've looked at the races, haven't tried to structure a ticket. If I can go 4 deep in the Travers, maybe I throw him on because the price might be good enough for the multis. And I do think he's a little better than I'd rather use him than the next, National Treasure, Disarm Scotland. But that's it. That's the only way he's going to be on any ticket. It was just we're going 4 deep. I'll throw him on there. Maybe something weird happen, because the bottom line with Tapit Trice is he does have ability, right? He does. And he does things that are just infuriating. But, guys like Todd Pletcher, I mean, this is who you're here. We hear stuff from the top. Love him. They think he has so much ability. He thinks this horse has it all in front of him. He thinks if I can figure him out, he's going to be a star. Todd Pletcher's not an idiot. He knows the difference between a good horse and a bad horse. So that tells me he's got ability. I'm not backing this horse until he shows it. Period. Yeah. It's crazy. Every time I hear that this horse is going to be great and he's training great. He doesn't have any trouble with training. He has trouble with racing. He's just, I don't know. I can't explain how he's been so bad, and I just can't get it out of him. And this is a great trainer, and he cannot get it out of him. So maybe it'll be this week and whatever, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, and the quotes I saw, I've obviously heard from the barn, but I've also, the quotes I saw from the PR was Pletcher kind of alluded to, we're kind of just we know he has ability, we know he's a grade 1 horse, but something needs to change with him, and that's kind of where the blinkers come in. It's almost we don't know. I don't know what more to do with him other than geld him. I guess that's the last step.
That's why I'm not falling for it, because Todd Pletcher is a great trainer and a terrific horseman. You cannot win as many races, as many big races as him, and not be those things. Correct?
Yeah.
If he thought blinkers would make a huge difference, I have a really hard time thinking he wouldn't have tried them much, much earlier. To me, it's just let's put them on them and let's hope. Well, and what more can you do at this point?
We know this. We know for certain that you could shove a rocket up his ass and he's still going to break last. That's just going to happen. We know he is going to put himself in a tough position every race. It's what he does. Mm-hmm. And you've seen it the last couple efforts. The Derby, it was like watching something slowly get pulled out. It was like grabbing a handful of sand. You think, I got it, then just slowly kind of just falls out. I thought, we broke. We had it, Halterman, and then he just slowly went backwards and backwards and backwards. And he puts himself in these impossible positions. He even had an insane pace. So it's the pace, he's too far back. He's too far back when the pace, because they're going fast early. And then in the other way, it's he's so slow. He can't ever get the motor running to get past the horses that have something left that were in front of him. And it's just, I mean, again, I saw, I don't know where it's gone now, but Mark says I'd rather lose on watching a horse break out than lose 100 times betting him, hoping he's going to do it. And that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, it's I love the horse. I'll always have love for the horse. He's such a pretty horse, and I really think that's a lot of it. I guarantee you, we see him on the track on Saturday. We're thinking, oh my, he looks unbelievable. He does. Well, I mean, he looks great, and in the mornings, if he looks good, that only adds to it. He looks like a freaking thoroughbred racehorse. It's just, I mean, it's a Tapit, but I can't keep betting him.
The problem is, Curse Bandle goes, he also hates running inside of horses. Sometimes he doesn't. Go watch the replays. Sometimes he's fine. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You don't know when he's going to be upset or what's going to make him upset or what's going to quit. Trust me, if he hated running inside of horses and that was his biggest problem, they just take him outside. It's not that big of a problem. The problem is sometimes he breaks from the rail and he's fine. And sometimes he breaks from the rail and he stops and he gets all the way away from everybody. And then he tries to circle. Like Jared said, sometimes he doesn't break well. And sometimes he breaks great and then he just quits and goes towards the back.
Mm-hmm.
He has a multitude of problems and they're not consistent. And that's the overarching issue. His problems are, the list is long, and sometimes they don't bother him and sometimes they do. So what exactly can you do with a horse like that? I don't care how good of a horseman, how good of a trainer, how many replays you watch and you could spot his issues. When he's all over the place, I don't really know what you can do with him. And this is the deal with him. He may solve all these issues on Travers Day, and then he turns for home and he might hang and wait on horses. And so this time they'll go, well, he's just hanging. Maybe the blinkers bothered him. So the next race they'll take him off, and then all those other problems will come back, right? Mentally, he's not there, period. It's all mental.
Clearly he's not. And a lot of people I think had different opinions of the race, but when I watched, I as a bettor, as a backer of Tapit Trice in the Belmont, and I know many of you also bet him that day. It's I loved every second of that race. Oh well, of course, other than the end, but as the race was going, it's yes, he's got him where he wants him. I thought it was an awesome ride.
Yep.
That he's got in the position to be there at the end of the race. He was in striking distance at the top of the stretch. It's what more could you ask for? Now go finish the job.
He wouldn't do it.
And he couldn't do it. And in fact, he kept him wide, and Forte went wider and passed him.
Yep.
And so it's just like you said, you might figure out 3 of the issues in that race. I think he got him involved in the race earlier.
Yep.
He was more of aggressive on the ride. He got him in a position that didn't have him have much left to do late, and then 3 other problems were still there. And so
I'll tell you, the minute I jumped off this horse, when he broke great in the Derby, and it looked like he was going to be mid-pack or even a little better, go watch it. And by the time they got to the wire the first time, he had already dicked around so much he was almost last. And I looked at myself and I said, he doesn't have it mentally. Maybe he can figure it out one day. This horse is an idiot. He doesn't have it mentally. If they can ever figure that out, he's going to be decent. But until they do, I'm not going to sit here and just waste money on him. It's just not going to happen.
Go watch the live stream of that if you want me and Halterman's reaction to that of when we were like, oh, he broke. And, and what was so funny is leading up to that, we had this back and forth with Samich, who, by the way, shout out to Samich, who got the Mage right, picked Mage. Yeah. But a big part of that was he's going to outbreak, he's going to break well, and Mage, that is. And Tapit Trice broke better than Mage. I mean, he was ahead of him. And then, like you said, just slowly. And so we're like, oh, yeah, we got it. And then, no.
He didn't have it. He just mentally doesn't have it. And
all right.
People could have said, well, if he broke outside, if he had it outside, no, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. He wasn't going to do it because he doesn't. He's got a screw loose.
Speaking of Mage, let's go to the next horse here. Number 4, Mage, your Derby winner. A horse that's, battle tested. He's ran in everything. It seems like, got beat in the Fountain of Youth. That was kind of his coming out party a little bit, because he was just out of the main special weight, went straight to that race, had a little bit of trouble. Everyone kind of oh yeah, but next time came in the Florida Derby, looked really, really good, looked like a winner. Forte came in and ran him down. By the way, Forte's beat him twice, both those races. The Derby was obviously, I think at this point we could say was the outlier, because he ran a 105 buyer, just a monstrous race in the Kentucky Derby. Preakness was awful, it was flat. And then in the Haskell, he ran well. It's just Go Rocket Ride was that horse. He was really, really good in the Haskell. So I kind of feel like Mage is he's kind of a combination of the Haskell, Florida Derby, and Fountain of Youth, which I think is really good, but I don't think he's great. And I think that's what the issue I have with Mage is.
I think he's ran 6 races. One of those races were good enough to win this race. The other 5 were not. And if he elevates to that Kentucky Derby race, which is the same distance as this race, so that I think that's important, I think he's got a shot. If not, I think he's going to run second. I think he's the most likely horse in the race to run second. And I say that because he's just really damn consistent. He just You know he's going to show up with a good effort. I just think at the end of the day, he's not quite good enough to win a race like this. And you might say, well, that's really dumb because he did win the Derby, but he did, and all the credit in the world to him. But his other races have just been just good enough to get up and hit the board. I really have grown to like this horse and respect this horse. I can't think it's any sort of good sign that Castellano went to Arcangelo. That was the other thing. So I don't think Mage is winning this race. I think Mage is definitely hitting the board in this race. That's how I describe it.
And again, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but we'll kind of readdress that. Like, it makes no difference to you, right? That, I mean, other than, no offense, but someone, if there's some random jockey, but it's like they're going to replace him with Luis Saez with someone, Pratt, Gaffleone, whoever it is. Like, that's not gonna change your opinion of him, no matter what, right?
No, and I think with him, it's the ride is kind of self-explanatory as well. Like at this point, he's going to drop towards the back and try to make a run. I mean, we saw that speed from him, and I think that's just long gone. I don't think we're going to see that anymore. He's got his style, so no, I don't think that the jockey will make too big of a difference. Like I said, this is a really consistent horse. I think he'll show up and run his race. I thought he ran a fantastic Haskell. And again, if I can go 3-4 deep, he will be on like a pick 5 ticket, but I just, for a win ticket, I just couldn't get there. I just think he's really good. I don't think he's like great, elite, however you want to describe him. That's just my opinion on him. But I do have a ton of respect for him.
A couple things. One, this race, if you really like Forte, the race is even challenging from a standpoint of like play. Let's say you want to like get a little bit more value out of the 7-5 or whatever he goes off at. It's like, well, I'll play like a cold exacta or something. Well, it's hard to even land on a horse that's going to finish second, because if it's not going to be Mage, it could be a list of these other horses that could run well. Second thing, do you think Forte would have beat Mage in the Kentucky Derby? I mean, obviously, assuming he was healthy and all things being equal. Mage runs his race, the race that he ran. Do you think Forte would have beat him?
Mage ran a lot better race than he had ever ran before. So it's tough to say. I don't know. Mage just been the right horse on the right day. And look, for next week's show, I'm going to do a study on this. The horses that won those 2 days on Friday and Saturday really haven't been that good. And the horses that ran behind those other horses have come back to win the races. It was a weird 2 days of racing at Churchill that weekend. And I think Mage just loved that track and freaked. So I'm not going to, I think it's a little bit disrespectful to say that because I go back and watch that replay and it's like he really ran his ass off that day. And I don't know, maybe Forte beats him, but I don't think it's a lock.
Yeah, I mean, we'll never know, but it definitely makes it adds some intrigue to say, because if you really like Mage, you say, well, I mean, if he runs his best race, even Forte can't beat him. And that if you do like him in this race, then that could give you something to go off of as far as the confidence in picking him. All right, let's go to the Preakness winner, number 5, National Treasure. Bobby B comes in the race with National Treasure. John Velasquez gets the mount. These guys obviously need no introduction. 35% when they team up. They're just, I mean, Bob Baffert he brings a horse to the Travers. You got to know the horse has got a chance to win. I mean, that's just the bottom line, because that's what Bob Baffert does when he brings a horse over for this race. So thoughts on the Preakness winner? I know after the Preakness, we thought that was the worst Preakness of all time. I mean, and honestly, that's kind of a big reason why I'm going against all 3 legs of the Triple Crown winners, just because I was ready for the Triple Crown to be over afterwards. Because I don't know that was like the greatest Triple Crown of all time. So to that point, he won the Preakness, barely beat Blazing Sevens. Blazing Sevens is still running in that last race in the Curlin. In the Belmont, I thought the Belmont, it clearly was too long for him. I thought he ran a little bit gutty early, when he kind of showed a little bit of fight, and then obviously he turned it in real quick. But for half a second, he kind of gave it an effort, cutting back, obviously off the 1.5 miles, but not a ton. Thoughts on him?
I just don't think he's a very good horse. I mean, that's just where it is with me. And I'm glad he's here. I do think he adds pace, presence. I actually think he's going to be on the lead. in this race because it's Baffert and it's a big grade 1. And I just think he puts a horse on the lead. So I think he gets the lead over Scotland. I think he's a little better than Scotland. I just don't think when the real running begins, he's going to be able to hold him off. I feel like if you wanted to, hey, he might hang on and get third or fourth, go ahead. I'm not going to, but end of the day, and I just don't think he is that good of a horse. And I think and give him credit, he took it, he took advantage of a Preakness that just wasn't very good, and he won it. I just think there's better horses here.
So, the interesting part with him is I'm trying to figure out what he's going to do, and you kind of, and that was where I first leaned too. Was like, well, it's Bob Baffert, it's John Velasquez, it's the Travers. You may only have one shot, and it might be to steal it on the front end. So, we've seen that before from those guys, and that's what he's going to do. But then, you kind of look at the workouts, and it takes blinkers off, which you go back and this is a horse that's been both very, about the same, really. I think 4 times has ran with blinkers and 3 times without. So he's kind of, he's played around with it. And the times he's been off of them or without them, he's never been on the lead. And the times he had blinkers, he's been on the lead every time, other than the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He was not, but the last 2, for instance, he had blinkers and he went to the lead. So kind of it's like, it makes me wonder. It's interesting to me because I was like, well, now why do you take the blinkers off? Are you going to try to rate him? I don't know. I thought that was interesting because I'm with you. I really just expected he would be on the lead.
Yeah, that is interesting. And it's interesting to keep taking him on and off. Tries to tell you we're just trying to do anything to move him up a few more links, because he's right there, but he's just not quite good enough. Yeah, to me, what's his best chance to win? Just go, So that's
well, either way. I mean, I think it's probably both the National Treasure and Scotland's. Yeah. They're both going to be forwardly placed, right?
Yeah, and I just think, and you may be onto something, and maybe he does come a little bit out of it. But to me, it's just like, your best race, you won the Preakness, you've got out to that lead. And this is another field where there's not a ton of speed. If you kind of just shove on him a couple times, he should get the lead, and he's inside the other speed. So,
well, here's one thing for Charles, and maybe if you like him, maybe I'm not going to argue about putting him in your try and exactas, but if you don't think he's sending, Bob Baffert, National Treasure has won 2 races in 7 starts. Both 2 wins were gate to wire. Never not on the lead. So the other 5, he obviously was not, or he faltered. So for that, I feel like if he's not going to the lead, and then Halterman said it, we said it, it's like the best chance for him to win would be going gate to wire. If you don't think he's going to go gate to wire, and there are some signs there that he may not, I definitely don't like his chances to run down a group of these horses in here. So I'm a pretty hard pass with him. But all right, Disarm, the other 8-1 shot. This one's interesting for me. Steve Asmussen, Santana. I'm sorry, Asmussen and Rosario Santana. Sorry, Santana. I don't know what to do with Disarm because he is a horse that had a lot of steam, kind of like got into the Kentucky Derby, finished 4th in the Kentucky Derby, won the Matt win, came back and got a big number. He's had 3 straight triple-digit buyers, but obviously that was a Forte, Saudi Crown, Angel Empire. They were all right there. Disarm didn't disappoint himself, I don't think, in the Jim Dandy, but it's hard to think that he's going to turn the pages that much over Forte, for instance.
Did you say he has 3 straight triple-digit buyers?
100. He got 100 in the Derby, 102 in the Matt win, and a 101 in the Jim Dandy. Yeah,
he got a 102 in the Matt win. That's amazing. He's a toss for me.
Well, here's the thing about those: he only won one of them, right?
Yeah.
And even if the Matt win, you think that's a bullshit number, then whatever. But if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times on the show. It's like that happens so often where a horse runs a big number, Mage or Forte and Saudi Crown and the other one, and then they get a big number and then they have to decline them accordingly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you find these horses that you're laughing at Disarm, and I don't disagree with you for what it's worth. It's like, okay, he got a 101 for the Jim Dandy effort. It's like, give me a break, So it's like you kind of take it with a grain of salt. Use the eye test.
He's not good enough. I don't. I did not know he ran buyers like that, but I mean, you just watch him. He's not good enough. He's gonna have to really improve to win.
I
Now the
don't.
blinkers are on, and I've heard they do magical things. Tapit Trice, so maybe that rubs off to Disarm. Yeah, Asmussen said, I don't think we've seen his absolute best race. I think he has more to give us. And that could be, but to me, this just doesn't scream, wow, he's really, really good. He's moving forward. He just kind of, I mean, if you want to use him underneath, definitely. I think that makes sense because that's kind of what he is. He's like Red Route 1, but he's a little better. He is better than that. He can get closer in these bigger races, but I just don't think he's good enough to win.
I think I have some interest in him underneath. Let's put it that way. I'm not sold on him yet, but like if I wanted to get creative in my exacta, I don't hate the idea of putting him in second if this thing, you know what I mean? Because he could juice it up. Because I don't think he's going to be bet all that hard. And Christopher brings up an interesting point. Doesn't that make you question Forte's 105? I think it does, but again, I looked at the eye test. I thought Forte ran a great race. I thought he was, obviously bottled up for most of the stretch run, and so it's like, yeah, the number is the number, right? I mean, he won the race to me. And so it's like, I question that what they all got. I think him and Saudi Crown were the only two that I have any interest in the race.
I'll take it one step further. I don't care. I don't care. You could have said he ran a 50. I don't care. There's no way, there's no chance ever I will care about a buyer ever. Period.
Shoddy says leave Red Route 1 alone. His West Virginia Derby was fantastic.
I mean, I don't think they're that different, but that's my point. Red Route 1 was in the West Virginia Derby. Disarm's in the Travers. It's two very different things. That's the problem.
All right, let's round this field out. Number 7, Scotland. I guess he did win the Curlin, but he's the only like non-graded stakes like kind of runner that's been running in all these big races of the field. Scotland being that one. And it's like, but he's not done a lot wrong in his career. 3 for 4 lifetime. The only one was the second by a Nostril who come back to a comeback winner. The horse, didn't break well in the next start, came off the lead from well off and won, and then went gate to wire in the Curlin. So a tactical horse, but also very versatile. So he's an interesting horse that like there's no, to me, there's no, I think he'll go to the lead because obviously you're up against it. You're up in class, and this is, you're going to have to kind of, El Miracolo. Did you see that win the other day?
Yep. Yeah.
Like they were high-fiving on the grandstand, but he's going by. He's so far out. But he came back to win. And I mean, I don't think he's got much of a chance, but he's interesting. I mean, I think he'll get bet. He's interesting.
I think he's the wise guy horse. I really do. Cause I think when you get your paper out and you start putting together the pace, you do look and say, well, this horse could take him gate to wire. Like he's going to be in front. You look at the breeding and you're like, yeah, he can go probably 1.25 miles.
Good
magic.
Me,
it's just like, I just don't think he's good enough. I think the Curlin winner always kind of gets bet more than it probably should. And we've seen a couple of Curlin winners run okay. For the most part, they usually don't, though. And I just feel like he's going to get a little overbet, and I could be wrong. Sometimes I'm kind of bad sometimes about horses getting overbet. I think they're going to, and then they don't. But I don't know. He just kind of feels like a wise guy horse. I've heard a lot of people talk about him. I just question his talent level. I don't think it's quite up to par, and I just feel like even if he gets a decent trip, he reminds me of like We the People, when We the People ran in that Belmont, and everybody's like, yeah, We the People is going to take him gate to wire. And it's like, yeah, he projects to get that trip, but he doesn't have the class, right? And that's what Scotland kind of worries me with that too. It's like, yeah, he might turn for home and have a shot, but Does he really have the class to take it the rest of the way? And I think that's a really underrated thing. You think about Saudi Crown, who I think had more class than Scotland going into the Jim Dandy. He still couldn't do it. He got beat, so you can get a perfect trip, but then you got to be able to finish. And I just think somebody will catch Scotland.
I do. Yeah, I agree. I do. I don't. If you're gonna, if you like, Dennis, I know you. Like, if we meet, hopefully we do this weekend.
Yep.
Like, I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, I hate that pick. Like, I don't hate it at all. I think he's
No.
certainly a wise guy horse. I don't think you're getting 12-1, but you might get 8-1 or somewhere in that department. I kind of love the idea. It keeps growing on me. The idea of playing him underneath, because he's shown. You look at the way he's ran these races. Obviously, he's a horse that doesn't like to lose because he's given an effort every time. Whether he's broke poorly, whether he's broke on top, he gives it an effort. Now, granted, it's been much less competition than he's going to be facing in a race like the Travers, but like that's a great sign, a great trait to have, kind of like Forte, where it's like, okay, well, I mean, even if I miss the break, or even if this horse gets out in the lead, or whatever, like say National Treasure just they're dead set on doing it and going at the lead. Well, I know Scotland can sit off of it a little bit, and so it gives you a little confidence, and from that aspect. I think he'll hang around. I don't think he's gonna like throw in the towel like a few of these might in this race. And honestly, dude, and we'll kind of tie this over to the whole thing here. I don't want a lot to do. I mentioned it a couple of times. I don't want a lot to do with the Triple Crown. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't. And I didn't love it. I'm kind of up against. I'm against all these. I'm against Arcangelo. I'm against Tapit Trice, Mage, National Treasure, and so it kind of is like the quote unquote new shooters, the Disarm, the Scotland, and Forte. And I mean, come on, I'm picking Forte. So it's like
Yeah.
it's that simple. I just didn't love. I didn't watch any of those races other than the Mage, right? If Mage can duplicate that effort, then yeah. But you didn't watch any of those races. Think, wow, watch out, Travers. Like this is the horse. I didn't. Certainly not that. I mean, if National Treasure wins this race, then I just tip my hat and I say, hey, I'll the Breeders' Cup's out in L.A. I'll meet you out there and I'll see you then. So I mean, that's really because if he wins, then it's whatever. But I just don't want a lot to do with these 3-year-olds that ran in the Triple Crown.
I think the Arcangelo situation is very that could burn you. I think he's the one that can burn you. As far as winning, because I'm not sure what he is one way or the other. The other ones that you think you've got kind of a handle on him. Yeah, and you said it was Scotland. Like if somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm going to bet Scotland," what do you think of him? I mean, I would just say he's not for me, but I understand what you see. Right, I understand where you're coming from and that you want to take a shot with him. It's just I'm not, but I don't think it's crazy. I don't because I think people see what like randomized did for Chad Brown in the Alabama and think, well, that'll happen in the Travers, and it could. I mean, it's not like that'd be the first time a gate the wire winner happened in the Travers. So
Charles says there's not in a million years Forte wins here. So I mean, there you go. But I think I saw. What do you like? Mage over Tapit Trice over Scotland and National Treasure. I mean, if you get that home, that's you're buying drinks, Charles. So if you can
I
get
mean,
that home,
you got to bet your opinion, and if that's your opinion, yeah, you'd go for it. I have a different opinion on those, but well, I mean, look, I mean that's what it is. I'm not here to talk you off of it. I mean, if you're set on it, go for it.
I
We'll
it,
see.
it feels like, and this is a good kind of segue into. We will try. First of all, Shoddy, we were gonna try to do it live a little bit and then last at the Whitney, and then of course, everything went down and Maple Leaf, and then we were just like, no, we're not. I mean,
I I was setting up to do it, and then that happened, and I text Magic. I said, "I'm not doing that."
yeah,
Because
honestly,
we were going to do the fist
I was
bump.
ready to leave after that. So I was like,
Yeah.
but yeah, we might try to see how crazy it is. Last year, you remember for the Travers, well, I know you remember, but for the people, like we were there, but we had rooting interests, personal interests. And so we were way nervous and we had a lot of that going on as well. And so this year will be fun just to kind of root on our picks. But Yeah, at the paddock bar, certainly, Dennis. Like
Yep.
if you look no further, you'll find us there.
Yep. We'll be there.
Um, so this kind of leaves up. Take a shot at Scotland at 5-1. That's the question, and I think that in the bigger picture, we can tie all this together and say, at what price are you willing to take X? And I think I honestly think it's that kind of race where it's like if you like the horse, it's 7 good horses. Let's call them 5.5 good horses. Like if you like the horse, then bet it. And I get it. It would suck to take 5-1 on a horse that was 12-1 morning line, but it'd suck worse is not betting the horse to win, and your opinion was dead on, and you didn't make any money off of it. Like to me, if 5-1 is 12, I mean, it's obviously not as good as 12-1, but if you have an opinion that's strong, play it. And I don't care really what the odds are, other than Forte being like 2-5 or something.
Well, and I mean, Dennis, you can only answer that question for you. That's the thing. Like, you asked me, if you asked me the question, are you going to take a shot at Scotland at 5-1? The answer would be, I would check myself into a sane asylum before I would bet that horse at 5-1.
Exactly.
But I have a tremendously different opinion on him than you do. If you love him, take him, even if he's 5-1. But you got to make that yourself. You've got to say, before you go into it, I like Scotland, but if he's lower than X, I'm not playing him, right? And if you think he's the most likely winner in the race, well, then 5-1 probably makes sense. I don't have that same opinion, so
It
I
really
couldn't.
feels like every horse in the race, and to a degree, it's even Forte, because if you really like Forte, then 7-5 is playable. That every horse in the race is playable, regardless of whether they get bet down, here or there or whatever, because it just, I don't know, it feels like this is my opinion, and no matter what the odds are, I'm going to play. It's a little bit like a Breeders' Cup, where it's like, where I'm going to get my price, whether, and more than anything, it's like trying to get the winner, pick the winner, right? That's to me, this kind of race is like, forget the odds. I mean, obviously we're all trying to make money, but pick the damn winner, and press it and get it right. I don't know about, like, I'll be going thin in this race. Like, I'll just say it. Like, I'm gonna press my opinion, whatever, and hope I'm right.
Yeah, I mean, look, the odds and what prices you take, I can't sit here and tell other people what to do, and you can't sit here and tell other people what prices to take, because that's up to the bettor. I mean, that's like, I mean, you just can't. That's a personal decision that you've got to make, and that's like when Christopher was saying, yeah, maybe Forte's better, but it's darn close between Arcangelo and Mage. Well, if you think Forte, Arcangelo, and Mage are darn close, then you probably just have to bet the highest priced out of those three, if that's your opinion, right? I don't think they're close, so I like Forte because it's like, yeah, it's 7-5. I would take that on him. But people listening to that may go, well, that's crazy. Well, that's your opinion and how you want to bet your money. I'm telling you how I want to bet mine, right? and if you are out there going, I want to take 5-1 on Scotland, well, that's your money. That's your opinion. That's if you feel that strongly, do it. I certainly wouldn't do it, but who am I to tell you, hey, you don't bet him at 5-1. You bet him at 8-1. I can't tell you that. That's a decision that you've got to make when it comes to the odds.
Opinions are like buttholes, Christopher.
Yeah. I mean,
well, last question or last thought on the race before we, obviously, it was great, guys. Keep the comments coming. We got a ton of people in here listening to this, and obviously we're all hyped up for it. So as long as you guys keep coming with questions, we'll keep talking about it. But a lot of hype on Forte being a classic horse, and obviously it kind of is both by talent and what we think he is, and also by the rest of the horses kind of collapsing and kind of going off different directions or whatever. And Cody's Wish being one of them, and switching that, didn't work out in the Whitney, and it's like, one, if Forte wins this race, like you think he will, I mean, he's got to be the favorite. I know it's still, we got a couple months out, but he's got to be the favorite for the Classic. I mean, other than, I'm trying to think of an older horse that could bounce him, but it just feels like he would be the favorite of the classic, and you don't see that a lot with 3-year-olds. Obviously, Pharaoh is the one I can remember off the top of my head being the favorite of the classic as a 3-year-old, but you don't see that very often.
Yeah, I think by default it's either gonna be him or Go Rocket Ride. You know, if he was able to beat Olders, the problem is he's like getting voted number one right now because there's nobody else to vote for. You know,
Yeah,
White Barrio is the older horse right now, but he's only really done it once. So, and he's not supposedly we're not going to see him until the Breeders' Cup. So I don't really know, you know, what that means. But
yeah,
I like
yeah. That's crazy, by the way.
like I rank Rattle and Roll, and I don't even know where he is, right? And like it's just like
No,
I don't.
Christopher said it. It's think how we feel. We have to rank these every week. The 10-year-old or 10 top 10 classic horses, and you get past like 5, and you're like, ugh. Let me make sure this horse is like training still. You know, it's really hard to come up with 10 horses for the classic. It's really sad, really.
Trying to see. Okay, Forte, Rattle and Roll, White Abario, Go Rocket Ride, Arcangelo, Mage, Zandon, Proxy, Defunded, and Stiletto Boy. That's who I have right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we desperately need some horses to step up.
But who? I mean, the other question is like, who do we have to step up? You know, we're running out of them.
Someone here in this race, someone as in maybe one or two, hopefully can like step up. I don't know. Maybe Arabian Night runs a little better. I mean, maybe Go Rocket Ride. And I ranked them and I'm like, I don't even like these horses. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, and like Kevin says, Wes Willpower, he's retired. And that's the other thing. I was ranking a horse that was dead, that is now dead, an Art Collector. Like, I just there's nobody there. And the horses you do have ranked in a list that you're like, this is pretty weak, something happens to him. So
Kevin Wes Willpower, he's retired.
yeah. So
I mean, that's the thing. He just keeps like my top 10. I have my top 4 are 3-year-olds, and a lot of that's going to change after this week, right? Because we're going to find out about 3 of them, like Forte, Go Rocket Ride, Mage, Arcangelo. And really, that was a fact, more of an issue of like, okay, well, he won the Derby, he won the Belmont, and I hate National Treasure. Rattle and Roll, White Abario, Zandon, Defunded, Proxy, and Stiletto Boy, and it's just like, ugh, really? But Zandon is my 7th ranked horse. It's just crazy, but I don't like. You gotta include him.
yeah. I mean, Senor Buscador, that's where we're at. Like he's probably going to be in the Classic.
I mean, I don't know. So I don't. Who knows with Tapa? I don't know.
Forget. I don't want to hear that name. Forget it. That is not no.
Tapa.
No.
I mean, he hasn't.
But as bad as I think Taba is, he did run 3rd in last year's Classic. I mean,
he has not had to work. No, he worked. Wow, he worked last week. So watch out.
Yeah,
he's coming back.
Japanese horse. You got to think they're going to come.
We don't know. We don't know. The last I had heard, the horse, and someone can look it up. The horse that won the Dubai World Cup is a Japanese horse. Is going to come to Santa Anita and start working out.
He might be the favorite.
I mean,
honestly,
I'll take a long look at him. I know that much.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, how long have we been saying Japan's going to win the Classic? You know, they're going to do it. And God, can you think of a better, or maybe not a better, but a more appropriate year when we don't have anybody that can fend them off? You know.
Yeah.
Extra AO, John White.
Whatever happened to Rich Strike? Is he retired?
I don't know.
Sylvia, you bring that up. That's a name I haven't heard from in months. The last time I heard he was with Bill Mott, or they were sending him to Mott or something.
I mean,
Surely
Yeah,
he's
I
not.
mean that's the last May 25th. That was like the last like
Yeah,
news.
he hasn't had a workout or anything.
That was Daddy went to
Okay.
Belmont, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Huh.
We're just. I mean, do you have any horses with Kelly you could think about? I mean,
Yeah.
shit. I know he won't, but why not? Why not the big horse? I mean, give it a shot.
I haven't seen a work from the big horse in a long time either. So I don't know what's going on with him.
All right.
So.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll find out a lot about this these 3-year-olds and how they might fare in the classic. But we'll first have to see how they do in this weekend's Travers, Halterman, and myself. Right now, going with number 1, Forte, to win the 2023 Travers Stakes.
I wonder what the end of the story will be.
Isn't it funny how like the 2 biggest horses that won the Kentucky? By the way, I said it that day, and I'll admit there was maybe some ill-timed tweets that day, but I said he'll never win again. He never won again, and isn't it funny how those 2 big, him and what's his name? Uh, what was the horse? Well, what was the horse that won that before that Calvin Burrell?
Mind that bird?
Mind that bird.
Yeah.
It's funny how both those horses that had these huge epic, wins in the Derby kind of, remember at the end of his career, he was with Lucas,
Mm-hmm.
just running these random races. Like he's like, it's just sad really. And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy how they try to win one of those horses that aren't really that good, but just however, whatever reason it happens, kind of peak at the right time. And then you want to squeeze out everything you can out of them because you think, well, this horse won the Derby, right? And then they turn out they're really not that good.
Yeah.
And then it's just really sad. So
It's it's weird. I will never I'll never figure out how that happened. I mean, it's just it all came together, and it's just amazing how that worked out that day. It's just
the crazier story for me is even though the odds were much higher for Rich Strike, it's still got to be Mind That Bird just from the pure fact that he backed it up 2 more times after that. It wasn't like Rich Strike. I mean, he was, he never really got, well, I guess he got close that one race with I'm tired. Okay, Shoddy, whoever the other horse, that.
The difference is though, Mind That Bird was decent coming into the Derby.
Yeah, I mean, he did win that race. He was, but still, to rattle off. I mean, this horse would have been running for the Triple Crown if it not been for Rachel.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and really ran a good Belmont, just a bad ride. But, yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, Mind the Bird ran second in the Preakness, Shoddy, and then he ran. What he ran fourth,
third
in the Belmont. Yeah,
Yep, third in the Belmont.
just early move from Calvin, but just the fact that he was able to squeeze out those 3 races out of him in those 5 weeks was just insanity to me. Versus one kind of fluke of a race,
Yep,
it's crazy.
Yep. It's nuts.
All right, we're gonna do a couple rapid fires here, and then you guys can get to handicapping again. All right, time for a rapid fire presented by the Travers Stakes 2023 Betting Bible. It's now available at racingdudes.com. Go get your hands on that right now. Halter and I are working on the final touches, going through our bets and how we're going to bet this thing. And it's not just us, it's the entire team at racingdudes.com. You get top 4 consensus picks from everyone that and love at Racing Dudes, who we like in every race, not just the Travers, but the entire card on Travers Day at Saratoga. That's this Saturday, August 26th. You'll get not just those, but you'll get kind of the pace, how we think the pace is going to unfold for each race. You're going to get pick 4, pick 5s, daily doubles, everything that, all the win bets, all those different way, different, maybe you like to play certain ways. It's all going to be in the betting Bible. Halterman crushed last, the Whitney had an 80% ROI. I mean, I mean, I was so pissed that day because everything I bet, I won't, I mean, it was like literally, it was awful, right? It just seemed like I was cursed that day. But this dude, it's like, was the opposite of cursed. Everything was running for him. It was really actually fun to watch. And let's see if he can back that up and pick that ROI keep going up. So if you want to fade me, I don't blame you, and play Halterman, and go get the betting Bible available now at racingdudes.com. All right, we got 3 Breeders' Cup Challenge races this weekend. Even though the Travers technically is not, it's obviously the horses are going to run in the Breeders' Cup from the Travers, but 3 that are actually winning your ends for the Breeders' Cup. And we'll kick things off here with race 10, the undercard. The Ballerina handicap. This is on the undercard of Travers, Saratoga, race 10, the Ballerina handicap, grade 1, $500K for fillies and mares. 3-year-olds and up, going 7 furlongs. It's a win and you're in for the BC PNC Bank filly and mare sprint. And the sprint winner of last year is in this race, number 7, Good Night Olive. But she's going to face a nice field of 8 here, 7 others. And Echo Zulu, the horse just to her inside, the 6 horse, freaked last time out. And it's not like she just freaked. Like, she's obviously a good horse, but ran a monster race. Echo Zulu versus Good Night Olive. Where are you going?
Echo Zulu for me. I think she's the fastest horse in the race. I think she gets out in front here. I think she goes to the lead and has a pretty comfortable lead. I don't think they'll get her this time. I'm going to go Echo Zulu on top. I know Goodnight Olive beat her in the Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint. I got to think Echo Zulu's in a little bit better form right now than Goodnight Olive. I think Zulu's going to be really tough. So give me Echo Zulu in this spot.
It's really hard to go against her here. I mean, I don't think Goodnight Olive will quit. I mean, she's a tough horse, and she obviously is, earned the right to be where she's at. But man, you look at this thing. Like, let me go through some of these stats that make this race so intriguing. Now, aside from the fact, like you said, Echo Zulu, how fast she is, but lifetime starts, 10 starts, 8 wins for Echo Zulu. By the way, they both have 10 starts and 8 wins. 1 second from Echo Zulu. 1 second, 1/3 for Goodnight Olive. Saratoga, Echo Zulu's 3 for 3. Goodnight Olive, she's 2 for 2. How about the distance? 3 starts at this distance for Echo Zulu. She's got 2 wins in a second. Goodnight Olive, 7 starts, 6 wins in 1/3. So they're kind of both dominating, everything about this race, and that's what makes this race so intriguing. Oh, and the other side, you got Echo Zulu who's going to go to the lead. Goodnight Olive is going to come try to get her. He did come and get her in the Breeders' Cup, or she did come and get her last time in the Breeders' Cup when they faced. But Echo Zulu was a different horse that time, and now she's a better horse now. And so I think she's going to be tough to beat, tough to run down. But, Goodnight Olive's not going to quit. She'll keep coming. You look at her, a lot of people said, well, she's not the same horse as she was last year. And maybe she's not. But, man, she's gutty. She tries. And maybe not quite good enough, but she'll give it an effort. But I still think Echo Zulu, for me, gets the job done. Number 6, Echo Zulu for both of us. All right, let's go to race 11. The next up here at Saratoga, it's Resorts World Casino Sword Dancer Stakes, grade 1, $750K for 4-year-olds and up, going 1.5 miles on the inner turf. Field of 7 shows up here, Halterman, and maybe not. By the way, it's a Breeders' Cup winning your in for the Longines turf. Not exactly like the last race as far as like this battle between these two super horses, but it definitely creates a little bit of a challenge as far as the betting, because this is the race prior to the Travers, and 7 horses, dude, and it's kind of tough to land on one. I'll be honest.
I went round and round on this one. This one, I would say, for the first time, is definitely subject to change. Really weird. This is a strange race. The weather could be a little bit funky, so this is subject to change. But as of right now, I'm going to go number 3, Ballet on top in this spot, coming over for Aiden O'Brien. I don't know. I just think this horse, I kind of like to see this horse back in the States. We thought this was going to be a really good one and really faltered last year. But I like that Johnny Velasquez picks up the mount. So give me the 3 in here. Take a little bit of a shot at 5-1.
Yeah, and by the way, I just saw this too. Echo Zulu is cross-centered in Charlestown. I think isn't the other one Wicked Halo in there as well, cross-centered? So I wouldn't be surprised if he runs Wicked Halo there. I don't know. But I mean, Ecclesfield, you got to think is going to run in this race. All right, let's go. I'm going to go with. I kind of what are the odds, by the way, on Soldier Rising? Did you tell me already?
5-1.
5-1.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm going. You look at that last time out, and that was such a weird day, or like kind of weird. Like I don't know what that was from him. It was like the whole like they scratched him, but he wasn't supposed to be scratched. So then he ran for purse money only. Not like that. Not like
Yeah.
he knew that, right? He cared. But then you had the horse go down in the race, and it was just kind of a weird race all around, just on top of the purse money only situation. I mean, this is a horse that had ran in the Manhattan the prior race, finished second up to the mark. Finished second in the grade one. I mean, it's been a solid horse. That race kind of came out of nowhere, I felt like. So I'm going to give him another shot. And kind of, late runner here, Soldier Rising. Clement obviously not backing off after that poor effort in the Bowling Green. So I like the fact that everyone kind of stays put with the connection. So give me number 1, Soldier Rising. But what do you think of, real quick before we move on? What were your thoughts on Stone Age on the outside? This is a horse that finished second. Would have won the Breeders' Cup, would not for Rebels Romance, who was a horse that went down that day. Now with Chad Brown, interesting move. Has not even sniffed the winner's circle in quite some time, though. Thoughts on Stone Age being with Chad and gets Pratt aboard?
Yeah, I don't think the horse deserves to be what the price is going to be, and that's my deal, right? And so, you look at like a 7-5, that'll probably be an even money with Forte, but I think he's better by a decent margin. You look at a 4-5 even money with Stone Age, I just don't know. I I think he can be beat. I think it's a little bit too short of a price. Um, I think it's weird. Aiden O'Brien brings one over, even though he knows Stone Age is here. That kind of tells me something, right? And look, it's been quite a long time since Stone Age has a win. So I'm a little bit against that horse in this race.
Yeah, I don't hate the Verstappen horse. I think that's an interesting one. Finished second that day to Channel Maker. By the way, Channel Maker in the race has ran 54 times in his career. He's still running as a 9-year-old. Won a grade 2 last time out. And by the way, wouldn't it be so Linda Rice 2023 to get Pioneering Spirit a berth into the Breeders' Cup? But it'd be fitting, right? All right, let's go to Del Mar for the last one here. Race 10, the Paddle Bryan Stakes, grade 2, 250K for 3-year-olds and up, going 7 furlongs. It is a Breeders' Cup winning you're in for the Big S fans. Dirt mile. Field of 11, Halterman shows up here. This was you had a few kind of that came in off of that last race that were that they all kind of, not all of them, but I guess a few of them ran into the Ben Crosby and showed up here. Anarchist is a horse. I think you liked Anarchist. I think last time out. Race number 9 in this race for Doug O'Neill. Spirit of McKenna is a horse that just got a terrible trip that day and kind of had to stop and never just pulled the horse up. CZ Rockets in the race. Thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'll go back with Anarchist again here, and this isn't reinventing the wheel here, but you listen, he ran second to Elite Power, and then he came back last time out in the Bing Crosby, and he ran second by only a head to the Chosen Vron. It was a great race. I liked both horses actually going into that, as well as Dr. Shivel. So ended up being a pretty good finish there for me. I think Anarchist, I hope he's not just I'm going to run second behind really good horses type. And that could happen. So I like the number 9 Anarchist on top. I do like Spirit of McKenna, the number 7 horse, and a definite use for me as well. Really bad trip last time out. Hopefully can kind of get that straightened out. He'd been really, really good. And that was one of the horses that Anarchist had been running behind, in that stretch of seconds. But I think Anarchist is a better price. So give me Anarchist on top.
Interesting. What are there odds for this one yet? Because you think that horse will be better odds than Spirit?
Should be. If not, I'd be really surprised. There are no odds.
Okay. I kind of, maybe the fact that everyone's going to say the same thing is like, well, he never, had a chance to run. Go if you haven't watched the Bing Crosby, go watch it. It's just like you'll see like this horse literally never just galloped home because they didn't have the horse got pulled up basically. So I'm gonna go back to Spirit of McKenna. I think I picked him that day, and I just this horse had rattled off 3 wins in a row, looked really, really good, and just, I mean, to me, it's like it was a non-effort, right? Just draw a line through it. So give me that horse back. I think play those two. Anarchist. I like Anarchist as well. I mean, that's those two. I would be a little bit surprised if. I mean, I shouldn't say that because it's Del Mar, but those two seem very fitting to win this race. I don't know what's going to come out of it as far as like, what we're going to see in the dirt mile, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these are, but especially like a horse like Spirit of McKenna, if it's the West Coast and stay out of Santa Anita, that might be a good thing. And Anarchist, I mean, Anarchist has a good chance here to prove that if this horse can win and run well, it's like, okay, well, your losses have been to the Chosen Vron and Elite Power as far as like these big races. Like that's not bad, right? Elite Power is awesome, but give me a Spirit of McKenna on the bounce back. All right. Hour and 30 show, guys. I mean, it's just, it's been that kind of show, you guys. It's been awesome. You can
Yeah.
tell everyone's fired up. These are my favorite shows to do whenever especially when they're late, because they're late and everybody's just dialed in, right? We're all concentrating on one thing, and that's watching replays and handicapping. And obviously the Travers is a huge race. So,
Yep. Yeah.
yeah, I think Chosen Brown's going to the Breeders' Cup Sprint, I would think. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely fun, and it's it's going to be interesting to see what actually happened, because I think Saratoga obviously hasn't done a good job getting like big fields, but these stakes races are all intriguing, even though the fields are a little bit short. So I think it's a cute. I don't see it as like the last couple of Travers is like, wow, we've got absolute superstars and this is going to be blowouts. I think you could get a few prices. So we'll see.
I'm glad we could help with the baby duties. I completely understand how that goes, Christopher. So, yeah, what does it? Yeah, the Magic Mike show will just be they'll be just the lone dogs tomorrow. So,
Well, the Daily Show also tomorrow.
well, yeah,
as
but
well.
as far as podcasts go, that will be
Right.
your. I guess I assume they're probably doing the late pick 5 at Saratoga. I assume, but you never know. They might do Charlestown.
So Curtis says the Florida Gators doc, which I haven't watched. Is it out? I guess it's out if you've watched it. Has me super sad that college football is ruined forever. Yeah, if you didn't know that was going on in college football, then I don't want to tell you there, Curtis.
I've seen all kinds of hype on that. I cannot wait to watch that.
Oh, it's going to show you what a big time program does. Well, maybe not all of them, because Urban Meyer was there and he's the worst, but it goes on a lot. It's pretty corrupt.
That and there's another one I wanted to watch. Oh, what's his name? The A&M.
Oh, you need to watch it, Johnny Manziel.
Yeah,
You need to
Manziel
watch
one.
that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Dude, the clip I saw from it, it was amazing. It was like he literally never I mean, we all kind of knew it, but he's like, I'd never like I would just ask someone what about the film. And like so it's like no wonder the dude was a bust. I mean, obviously there's a lot of other reasons, but it's like he put no effort into it whatsoever.
It, it- it's hysterical until it gets sad,
Yeah.
that he spins totally out of control. But, he explains just how him and his buddy would just fly here, there, and everywhere, just signing autographs,
Yeah.
sign a big autograph signing, get 100,000 here, get 50,000 here. I mean, it was crazy. And he literally was like, like practice, really? Like, I didn't go to practice. Like, fuck your practice is basically what he told them. I mean, it's amazing.
It's there's a lot. I'm gonna have to actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, because I always obviously download some good stuff, whatever I can find for the
Yeah.
plane. I'm gonna have to download those so I can watch them.
You need to download it. It's definitely, to me, it was a kid that just was not gonna be able to handle the spotlight and didn't even really want it, to be honest. And wasn't really prepared for it mentally, never could have been, but that, like, his teammates were like, he didn't really care. Like, he just wanted to goof around, and that was just him.
Right.
But all of a sudden he's like the Heisman winner. It's like, oh God. So it was a mess. The thing you'll love the most is how his agent got him ready for the draft and sold him to all these teams. It was unbelievable. The stories of trying to keep him sober and him not being sober when they really needed him to be. It's amazing.
What's the? I haven't had like what's going on with the? I keep hearing all this shit about the blind side guy and like what is that about?
Evidently the family took all the money from the movie and didn't give him any. And then also I guess he wasn't, quote unquote, really adopted. It was more of like a conservatorship or whatever. So it sounds like it was pretty sensationalized, the story.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
and he was supposed to keep quiet about it, and then when he wasn't getting paid, it was like, well, fuck you guys. So
Yeah.
got it. And
Yeah. That seems to be what's happening with that.
and
Yeah.
like I don't get it either because like they're like, I mean, from what I know, like aren't they like, isn't the dude like they own like a bunch of like McDonald's and Taco Bell's and all this bullshit? Like he's a like legit million like multi millionaire in real life, the dad. And so it's like, why would it matter what move, like you're pocketing the money? I mean, obviously, I'm sure it was a good amount of money, but still,
Yeah.
it's like, who cares?
There's probably more to the story. And that's I think now it's like anytime a story comes out, it's a lynch mob. It's like, whoa, 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 you got one version of it. Now that version
Yeah.
of it could be 100% true, but there's always two sides of everything. So I'm not really sure what's happening with it. There's got to be more to it. But if what he is saying is true, then it's pretty bad. But I never just jump to conclusions. I'd like to hear both sides.
Well, don't you think it'd be kind of easy to like, I mean, to like check to see if like, hey, they wrote him checks for X amount, or he's
Yeah.
getting paid, or see his deposits. Has he been, you know what I mean? Like, couldn't they figure that out pretty quick?
Well, and it's another yes for sure. And my other thought was, why is he coming out with this now? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
I don't know what, man. Well, it's a good movie though.
I hated that movie.
I liked it. What are you doing? I mean, it was corny as hell. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. But okay. How about this? I think what I liked about it was that it was a true story, and it's not now. So now I hate it. I guess so. Was Remember the Titans real? I love that movie.
I think so. Yeah,
Miracle. I know that's true. I love that movie.
that was real.
I know. I was there, right? I saw it. So, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So
Yeah, I got all Houston Nut in there. That was funny part of the movie when all the coaches showed up and
yeah.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Make sure you check out the website racydudes.com to get all our picks for this weekend. Not just the Travers, but the entire. You get the personal instant Friday. You get all the picks you want at racingdudes.com for the Travers and everything at Saratoga. Go check out the best bets page. We'll be popping out. The betting Bible obviously is Saturday, but we'll be doing best bets all week long, which obviously is similar to the betting Bible in a sense that Halterman and I, as well as everyone, Vinny's been doing picks as well. Papa Dude does a lot of sports picks. We give out our best bets for every day. And obviously with Saratoga being the big one, we'll have a ton of best bets over the next couple days at the spa. So make sure you check out the best bets page. Just click on the main menu. You'll see best bets up there. And then, the betting Bible is available now for sale. Just stay tuned for tomorrow. I'm hoping that before we go on an airplane, we can have that thing live. If not, it'll be tomorrow night. But just stay tuned for that. We'll definitely have it to you, and just check in your email when it does come out. But go ahead and get it, so you'll be the first ones to access it once we do go live with that thing. We're on Twitter at @racy_dudes, Instagram and Facebook with tons of content. I'll be trying to post as much as I can on Instagram and Twitter while we're at the track this weekend. If you are going to be at the track, make sure you hit us up. Make sure you listen to Blinkers Off on all the different channels you listen to podcasts, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Go check out Dudes Who Bet Sports with Halterman and his dad. What'd you guys do? You covered the Travers?
We covered the Travers, and then we did over-unders for all the NFL win totals, and so that was a lot of fun. We did that for college last week. We did it for NFL this week. So that's we covered every single team, their over-under win totals. Because gosh, we had to do it this week because I mean it's right on top of us now.
Dude, we have football now until February.
Yep.
So it's freaking fantastic.
Yep.
And by the way, the Magic Mike show, they'll be live tomorrow, kind of headlining the whole day as far as the podcast. And I don't know for sure, but I assume they're going to do Saratoga. So get more insight of what Samich and Magic we're going to be going with. Make sure you stay tuned for the Magic Mike show tomorrow. Halterman, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good.
I probably should work out a plan with you. So I guess, are we meeting at the airport? Is that the plan?
I'll see you at the airport. The plan is set.
Okay. Don't need to text you now. See you on the plane, buddy. Knowing you, we don't even sit next to each other. So
we do on the first one, but not on the second one.
Good. I always feel obligated to talk to you when we sit next
but
to each other.
I want you to know something.
Okay.
I've grown out of we're gonna sit in the middle seat because it's free. I mean, it's not an upgraded charge.
Yeah, finally.
We're each sitting by the window on the second flight.
I expect first class, nothing less.
Not first class, but you don't have to sit in between people. So there you go.
Well, hey, it's baby steps. All right, guys. I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and seriously, good luck in the Travers this weekend.